At exactly 1847 hours on June 25, 2026, just 8 days after the United States and Iran signed a memorandum of understanding in Geneva, the fragile peace that the world had been holding its breath for was shattered by a single Iranian drone screaming at wave-top altitude across the Strait of Hormuz. The target was the MV Everlovely, a Singapore-flagged commercial cargo vessel weighing 85,000 tons, carrying industrial equipment through the southern corridor of the strait along the Omani coastline. The vessel was using the exact route designated in Point 5 of the US-Iran MOU, the route that Iran itself had agreed to keep safe for 60 days. The one-way Shahed attack drone impacted the Everlovely's port quarter at near supersonic closing speed. The detonation tore a 6-meter gash through the vessel's superstructure, igniting a fuel fire that sent a column of black smoke visible 40 nautical miles. 4 crew members were critically injured. The steering control and began drifting dangerously close to the Iranian-controlled shipping. The Pentagon confirmed that the U.S. military launched retaliatory strikes on Iran after the commercial vessel was hit in the Strait of Hormuz, NBC News. But that was just the beginning. At the same time the Everlovely was burning, CENTCOM reported it carried out retaliatory strikes on Iranian military targets in response to the attack, striking infrastructure linked to missile and drone capabilities, as well as coastal radar systems, including sites on Qeshm Island and other locations along Iran's southern coastline. Wikipedia. The strikes were surgical, precise, and devastating. 4 separate target packages were hit simultaneously. Drone storage hangars near Bandar Abbas, coastal surveillance radar arrays on Qeshm Island, a mobile missile launcher that CENTCOM's reconnaissance assets had been tracking for 72 hours, and a communications relay station that the IRGC Navy used to coordinate fast attack boat operations in the Eastern Strait approach. The message from Washington was unmistakable. Sign a peace deal and then violate it within 8 days, and the U.S. military's response will arrive before Tehran can issue a press release.
But Iran was not finished. On June 27th, the oil tanker Kiku was struck by a projectile in the strait. CENTCOM confirmed the vessel was hit by an Iranian attack drone, and the U.S. military responded by conducting airstrikes against Iranian military and communication sites near the strait. Fox News. 2 ships struck, 2 retaliatory strike packages executed, and the peace deal signed just 10 days earlier was now hanging by a thread thinner than the hull of a tank. The United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operations Center raised its threat level from moderate to substantial in the Strait of Hormuz following the attacks on merchant vessels, warning mariners of the existence of mines and advising them to expect naval presence as clearance operations continued. Fox News. Simultaneously, Bahrain's foreign ministry said it was targeted by Iranian drones as tensions escalated around the Strait of Hormuz. Fox News. Iran had just attacked a Gulf state, a country that hosts the U.S. Fifth Fleet's headquarters, 48 hours after signing a peace agreement. At the U.S. George H.W. Bush Carrier Strike Group, now operating in the Arabian Sea, flight operations were placed on continuous alert status. EA-18G Growlers were loaded with full electronic warfare suites. FA-18F Super Hornets sat armed and fueled on the catapults, their pilots strapped in and waiting for a launch order that could come at any second. The carrier's AEGs-equipped escorts, USS Stout and USS Gravely, pushed their SP-1D radar arrays to maximum range, painting every Iranian fast attack craft and coastal batteries within 400 nautical miles. Strait of Hormuz traffic slowed dramatically over the weekend. Just 29 commodity vessels crossed on Saturday, and only 12 transited on Sunday, according to maritime tracking data, as the fragile reopening of the world's most critical energy choke point teetered on the brink of total collapse. CBS News. The global energy markets reacted with immediate panic. Brent crude spiked $4.80 per barrel in after-hours trading. LNG futures jumped 12% in a single session. The world had convinced itself the Hormuz crisis was over. Iran had just reminded the world that it was not.
The International Maritime Organization paused its evacuation program for ships stranded in the Persian Gulf after the vessel strike, announcing the plan would be on hold until the agency could confirm safety guarantees for the ships on the evacuation list. NPR. Approximately 2,000 vessels and 20,000 mariners remained trapped or at risk. And in Doha, Qatar, where U.S. and Iranian negotiators were scheduled to sit down for their second round of talks following the Geneva MOU, the atmosphere shifted from cautious optimism to something far more dangerous. Trump posted on Truth Social that Iran had requested a meeting in Doha for Tuesday, but offered no further details on whether the talks would address the ceasefire violations or the drone strikes on Gulf allies. CBS News. Iran's negotiating position had just become infinitely more complicated. Attack a commercial vessel using the route you agreed to protect. Strike Bahrain, a U.S. ally. Then ask for a meeting. The IRGC's calculation was transparent to any analyst watching the pattern. Use the MOU as a shield to buy time and rebuild modern military capabilities, while continuing low-level maritime harassment to maintain leverage in the negotiations. Each drone strike on a tanker was not a military objective. It was a bargaining chip, a reminder to Washington that Iran could still reach into the world's energy jugular at will. What Iran did not calculate was the speed and precision of the American response. CECOM tends clearly. U.S. forces remain vigilant, lethal, and ready. Commercial vessel transits through the Strait of Hormuz would continue under American military escort, regardless of Iranian threats. Fox News. The USS George H.W. Bush Battle Group, 7,500 sailors, 90 aircraft, and enough Tomahawk missiles to reduce Iran's coastal infrastructure to rubble in a single night, remained on station in the Arabian Sea. Not as a diplomatic gesture, as a loaded weapon pointed directly at the calculation of any Iranian commander who believed that the peace agreement gave them permission to keep shooting. The world is watching the Strait of Hormuz this week, not as a footnote to a concluded war, but as the live detonator of the next one.
The MOU signed in Geneva on June 17th called for 60 days of negotiations. It is now day 12. Iran has already struck 2 commercial vessels, attacked Bahrain, threatened tankers on radio, and declared that any vessel not using the Iranian designated corridor is, in their words, extremely dangerous and prohibited. The United States has responded with precision strikes twice in 7 days. The question that every oil trader, every naval commander, and every head of state in the Middle East is asking right now is not whether Iran will strike again. It is how fast the American response will be when they do, and whether that response will finally cross the threshold from retaliation into the full resumption of Operation Epic Fury. The Strait of Hormuz is open, but it is open at gunpoint, and the finger on the trigger belongs to a regime that just proved it cannot honor a peace deal for 10 days. Stay sharp, stay informed, and remember, the most dangerous moment in any war is not the first shot. It is the shot fired after the ceasefire is signed. What do you think? Will Iran honor the next 50 days of the MOU, or is a full resumption of war inevitable? Comment below. Subscribe to GeoVector for daily military and geopolitical analysis, because in this world, the next crisis never waits.